Engine pressure ratio is determined by dividing the turbine outlet total pressure by the engine inlet total pressure. One indicates engine RPM and the other main rotor RPM. Why do helicopters require a minimum of two synchronous tachometer systems? One indicates engine RPM and the other main rotor RPM. The loads would be within the generator load limit. When a 28 volt 75 ampere generator is installed on the aircraft, an electrical load analysis ground check is performed and it is determined that the battery is furnished 57 amperes to the system with all electrical equipment operating. This indicates the load will be within the generator load limit. The voltage output of the thermocouple system is determined by the temperature difference between two ends of the thermocouple. Which statement is true regarding the thermocouple type cylinder head temperature measuring system? The voltage output of the thermocouple system is determined by the temperature difference between the two ends of the thermocouple. The voltage output of the thermocouple system is determined by the temperature difference between the two ends of the thermocouple. The condition is normal for this type of motor. A certain direct current series motor mounted within the aircraft draws more amperes during start than when it is running under its rated load. The most logical conclusion that may be drawn is the condition is normal for this type of motor, below those of associated conductor. The time or current capacities of a current breaker or fuse must be below those of the associated conductor. Below those of the associated conductor. Commutator. What device is used to convert alternating current which has been induced into the loops of the rotating armature of the DC generator to direct current? A commutator. So what I'm doing here, I'm reading the answer first, and I'm reading the question, and I'm reading the answer. And that will help me. You know? Series. Electric motors are often classified according to the method of connecting the field coils and armature. Aircraft engine starter motors are generally of which type? Series. Aircraft engine starter motors generally of which type? Series. Soapstone talcum. Soapstone talc. What type of lubricant may be used to aid in pulling electrical wires or cables through conduits? Soapstone talc. Turbine inlet temperatures. What instrument on the gas turbine engine should be monitored to minimize the possibility of a hot start? TIT. Turbine inlet temperature. Keep the battery fully charged. What precaution is usually taken to prevent electrolyte from freezing in a lead acid battery? Keep the battery fully charged. Engine thrust being produced. Engine pressure ratio indicator is the direct indication of engine thrust being produced. Engine thrust being produced. The direct current series wound mount motor. What type of electric motor is generally used with a direct cranking engine starter? The direct current series wound motor. The direct current series wound motor. Drop in compressor discharge pressure. Drop in compressor discharge pressure. One way that the automatic ignition relight system are activated on gas turbine engine is by a drop-in compressor discharge pressure. Drop-in compressor discharge pressure. Drop-in. Provide a low electrical resistance in the ground circuit. Bonding jumpers should be designed and installed in such a manner that they provide a low electrical resistance in the ground circuit. Only one is true. Most modern aircraft use circuit breakers rather than fuses to protect their electrical circuit. Part 23 requires that all electrical circuits incorporate some form of circuit protective device. Only one is true. Part 2 is not true because 14 CFR 23.1357 states that protective devices such as fuses, circuit breakers must be installed in all electrical circuits other than the merged circuit of the starter motors. The circuit in which no hazard is presented by their omission. So one is true. Most modern aircraft uses circuit breakers rather than fuses to protect their electrical circuit. Weak brush springs. Arcing at the brushes and burning of the commutator of a motor may be caused by weak brush springs. Weak brush springs. Rectifier. The part of a DC alternator power system that prevents reverse flow of current from the battery to the alternator is the rectifier. Both 1 and 2 is true. Power plant instrument range markings show whether the current state of power plant operation is normal, acceptable for a limited time, or unauthorized. Power plant instrument range markings are based on installed engine operating limits, which may not exceed but are not necessarily equal to those limits shown on the engine type certificate datasheet. Both 1 and 2 are true. 4. The maximum number of terminals that may be connected to any one terminal stud in an aircraft electrical system is 4. Continually, as long as the control circuit is completed. When does current flow through a coil of a solenoid operated electrical switch? When does current flow through a coil of a solenoid operated electrical switch? Continually, as long as the control circuit is completed. The three-phase AC generator. What unit in the tachometer system sends information to the indicator? The three-phase AC generator. The three-phase AC generator. Generally, an accurate trend forecast may be made after the engine first oil sample analysis. In regards to using a turbine engine oil analysis program, which of the following is not true? Generally, an accurate trend forecast may be made after the engine first oil sample. An oil analysis program is a trend indicating system. A sample of oil is taken when the engine is new, and a part per million of each of the number of elements is recorded. A subsequent sample are tested on a regular basis. The thread of the growth of the trace elements are recorded. When the growth of any elements is far more rapid than it should be, the engine operator is warned of possible impending trouble. Analysis of first sample is only a starting point and cannot give an accurate forecast alone. Generally, an accurate trend forecast may be made after the engine first oil sample analysis. Pin section on the ground side of the electrical circuit. Pin section on the ground side of an electrical circuit. In order to reduce the possibility of ground shortening of the circuits when the connector is separated for maintenance, an AC or MS electrical connector should be installed with pin section on the ground side of the electrical circuit. 3. How many basic type of circuit breakers are used in the power plant installation of electrical system? 3. There are 3 basic types of circuit breakers used in the aircraft electrical system: push to reset, push pull, and toggle type. The 2 types of AC motors that have the highest starting torque are the 3-phase induction motor and single-phase induction motors with capacitor start. 3-phase induction and capacitor start. What are the 2 types of AC motors that are used to produce a relatively high torque? 3-phase induction and capacitor start. 3-phase induction and capacitor start. Noticeable shift in EPR. An aircraft turbine engine operating at a constant power. The application of the engine anti-icing will result in noticeable shift in EPR. Noticeable shift in EPR. Higher than normal fuel flow indication. The principal fault in the pressure type fuel flow meter indicating system installed on horizontally opposed continuous flow fuel injected aircraft reciprocating engine is that the plunge fuel injection nozzle will cause a higher than normal fuel flow indication. Galvanometer. What basic meter is used to indicate cylinder head temperature in most aircraft? Galvanometer. paper-based phenolic compound. Paper-based phenolic compound. A typical barrier-type aircraft terminal strip is made of. A typical barrier-type aircraft terminal strip is made of paper-based phenolic compound. An increased fuel flow indication on the gauge. An increased fuel flow indication on the gauge. In an aircraft equipped with a pressure drop type fuel flow indicating system, if one of the injector nozzles become restricted, this would cause a decrease in fuel flow with an increased fuel flow indication on the gauge. An increased fuel flow indication on the gauge. Case paint chipped. Case paint chipped. Which of the following instrument condition is acceptable and does not require immediate correction? Case paint chipped. Prevailing atmospheric pressure. A complete break in the line between a manifold pressure gauge and the induction system will be indicated by the gauge registering prevailing atmospheric pressure. Prevailing atmospheric pressure. An open armature. An open armature. Generator voltage will not build up when the field is flashed and solder is found on the brush cover plate. These are most likely indication of an open armature. The maximum limit for high transient such as starting. Maximum limit for high transient such as starting. A red triangle dot or diamond mark on the engine instrument face or glass indicates a maximum limit for high transients such as starting. Okay. Both 1 and 2 are true. Alternators are rated in volt amps. Alternators are rated in volt amps, which is measured of apparent power being produced by the generator. Alternating current has the advantage over direct current in that its voltage and current can easily be stepped up or down. An electrical signal. An electrical signal. The fuel flow meter indicator rotor and needle for the motor impeller and turbine indicating system is given by an electrical signal. An electrical signal is the method most effective in maintaining cell balance. Is the method most effective in maintaining cell balance. The constant current method for charging a NiCad battery is the most effective in maintaining cell balance. Are connected to electrical wiring. Are connected to the electrical wiring on one end and the cylinder on the other end. The thermocouple leads used to measure cylinder temperatures on the aircraft recip engine are connected to the electrical wiring on one end and the cylinder on the other end. Bootstrapping. An indication of unregulated power changes that result in continual drift of manifold pressure. Indication on turbo supercharged aircraft engine is known as bootstrapping. Bootstrapping. 2% of regulated voltage. 2% of regulated voltage. The maximum allowable voltage drop between a generator and a bus bar is 2% of the regulated voltage. Monitor engine RPM during starting and to indicate overspeed condition. What is the primary purpose of the tachometer on an axial compressor turbine engine? Monitor engine RPM during starting and to indicate overspeed condition. Entering the engine. Engine oil temperature gauges indicate the temperature of the oil. Entering the engine. 14 CFR Part 23. Which federal aviation regulations specify that each resettable circuit protective device requires a manual operation to restore service after the device has interrupted the circuit? 14 CFR Part 23. Which federal aviation regulation specifies that each resettable circuit protective device requires a manual operation to restore service after the device has interrupted the circuit? A manual operation is required to restore service after tripping. 14 CFR Part 23. Which of the following? 14 CFR Part 91. Which of the following aviation regulation requires that all aircraft using fuses as a circuit protective device carry one spare set of fuses? 3 spare fuses are each kind required. 14 CFR Part 91 205C6. Number 12. The following data concerning installation. It's a Y diagram. Electrical unit is known as current requirement for continuous operation. 11 amperes measured cable length, 45 feet. System voltage, 28 volt. Do not exceed 1 voltage drop. Cable in the conduit and bundles. What is the minimum size copper electrical cable that may be selected? Number 12. Synchronous motors. Which of the following types of electrical motors are commonly used in electrical tachometer? Synchronous motors are used in electrical tachometers. Synchronous motors. What is the maximum number of bonding jumper wires? 4. What is the maximum number of bonding jumping wires that may be attached to one terminal ground to a flat surface? 4. It is good practice to limit to 4 the number of bonding jumpers attached to one terminal that is grounded to a flat surface. In this, the terminals may be spread out and good contact between terminals is ensured. Voltage and current they can control. Electrical switches are rated according to voltage and current they can control. 14 CFR Part 23. Which federal aviation regulation requirement prevent the use of automatic reset circuit breaker? 14 CFR Part 14 CFR Part 23 requirement prevents the use of automatic reset circuit breaker. Pressure and temperature. A boarding tube instrument may be used to indicate pressure and temperature. A boarding tube instrument may be used to indicate pressure and temperature. Only one is true. Electrical wires larger than 10 gauge used in uninsulated terminals. Electrical wires larger than 10 gauge use uninsulated terminals. Only one is true. Statement 2 is not true. Electrical wires smaller than 10 gauge normally use pre-insulated terminal. The color of the insulation shows the size of the terminal fit. So statement 2 said electrical wires smaller than 10 gauge use uninsulated terminal, which is not true. They use insulated terminal. So electrical wires larger than 10 gauge use uninsulated terminal. That is true. Structure is adequately bonded. Structure is adequately bonded. The resistance of a current return path through the aircraft is always considered negligible, provided the structure is adequately bonded. Structure is adequately bonded. The resistance of a current return path through an aircraft is always considered negligible, provided the structure is adequately bonded. Immediately aft of the last turbine stage. Immediately aft of the last turbine stage. In a turbine engine, where is the turbine discharge pressure indicator sensor located? Immediately after the last turbine stage. In the turbine engine, where is the turbine discharge pressure indicator sensor located? Immediately after the last turbine stage. Permanent magnets are installed in a main field pole. Permanent magnets are installed in a main field pole. Why is it unnecessary to flash the field of an exciter on a brushless alternator? Why is it unnecessary to flash the field of an exciter on a brushless alternator? Permanent magnets are installed in the main field pole. Permanent magnets are installed in the main field pole. Save that.